We have a problem. A message from Monica made my blood run cold. We need to meet. Urgently. I looked at Emma, her daughter and my wife sleeping next to me. If only she knew what connected me to her mother. An hour later, I was sitting in a small cafe on the outskirts of the city. Monica looked worried. "Mike is out," she said instead of a greeting. "What? He was sentenced to 15 years. Early release for good behavior." I felt cold sweat running down my back. Mike was the only one who knew the truth about that night 10 years ago. He wrote to me. Monica took out her phone. "Wants to meet, says we have things to discuss." Blackmail? Looks like it. We were silent, remembering that night. The secret society Guardians of Justice. A loud name for a group of idealists who decided to fight corruption by their own methods. Hacking a major corporation's server. Stolen documents. Mike, caught trying to sell them. "He doesn't know that we are now," Monica started. "Relatives? No, he went in before I met Emma." Monica nervously fixed her hair, a gesture I remembered from those times. Back then, she was a radical activist, ready to fight for justice by any means. Now, a respectable lady, owner of an art gallery. "What are we going to do?" she asked. "For starters, we'll meet with him, find out what he wants. And then? Then we'll decide together." She looked at me with a long gaze. "Like old times?" "Yes, only now the stakes are higher." "Much higher. Back then, we only risked ourselves. Now our family, reputation, everything was at stake." "Emma must not find out," said Monica. "Never." We finished our coffee in silence, each thinking our own thoughts, but probably thinking about the same thing, how the past has a way of catching up at the most inopportune moment. We agreed to meet in neutral places, cafes, parks, once even in a museum. Discussing the plan of action, recalling details of the past. "Remember how we first met?" Monica asked as we sat in her car watching Mike's house. "Of course, you were speaking at a society meeting, talking about justice so passionately that I fell in love instantly." "With the idea or with me?" she smirked. "Then with the idea, although you were damn attractive." "Were?" I looked at her. At 45, she looked even better than 10 years ago. Time had added a special charm to her. "You know what I mean." She turned to the window. "Sometimes I miss those times. That version of myself, young, reckless, believing in ideals. And now I am your wife's mother, and we are watching a man who can ruin our lives." At that moment, Mike came out of the house. We tensed up. "He's changed," whispered Monica. "Prison changes people. Do you think he'll really turn us in?" "I don't know, but we can't risk it." Mike got into a taxi. We followed him. "How will you explain your absence to Emma?" asked Monica. "I'll say I'm working on an important case. And I'll say I'm busy at the gallery. I hate lying to my daughter." We have no choice. We followed Mike to a bar. He met a man there. "Making copies of the documents?" said Monica, looking through binoculars. "Damn." "Stay calm. We'll figure something out." Her hand accidentally touched mine. A strange shiver ran through my body. "Sorry." She pulled her hand away. "It's okay." But we both felt it, some new tension between us, something that wasn't there before. "We need to meet with him," she said, breaking the awkward silence. "Tomorrow, in a neutral place." "Okay, just let's not involve Emma." Of course, the less she knows, the better. We drove off in different directions, but something remained. Some aftertaste of that evening, that closeness, that accidental touch. The meeting with Mike went exactly as we feared. $1 million, he said, sipping his whiskey. "And I'll forget everything I know." "Are you out of your mind?" Monica turned pale. "Where would we get that kind of money?" "You have a successful gallery. Your son-in-law has a private practice. You'll manage." I noticed how he smirked when saying son-in-law. Did he know about our current relationship? "We need time," I said. "A week, then I go to the police." After the meeting, we went to Monica's gallery, the only place we could talk in private. "What are we going to do?" She poured us some wine. "I don't know. Sell the gallery? Even that won't be enough. And how will I explain it to Emma?" She sat next to me on the couch, too close. I could smell her perfume, the same one as 10 years ago. "Remember," she said quietly, "how we celebrated the success of the operation before everything went sideways? I remember you almost kissed me then, and you pulled away. Because we were colleagues. And what are we now?" Our eyes met. There was something new in her gaze, or something old, well forgotten. "Monica, I know." She turned away. "I'm sorry, it's just all this memories, adrenaline." "I understand. But we both knew it wasn't just the memories. Something was changing between us with every meeting, with every conversation. "We need a plan," she said, standing up. "Something we can use to pressure Mike." "I have an idea, but you won't like it." "Tell me," I told her. She was silent for a long time. "It's dangerous," she finally said. "I know, but there's no other way." She came closer, put her hand on my shoulder. "Like old times? You and me against everyone?" Her touch sent a shiver through my body. "Like old times." I covered her hand with mine. We stood like that for a few seconds, too close, too intimately. "I have to go," she whispered. "Yes, of course." But neither of us moved. The plan was risky, but we saw no other way out. We needed to find dirt on Mike, something we could blackmail him with in return. "The documents are in his laptop," said Monica. "We just need to get to it." We devised a plan. Monica was to distract Mike while I snuck into his apartment. "Be careful," she said as we sat in her car outside Mike's house. "He may have changed over the years, become dangerous. And you be careful with him. Don't get carried away." "Jealous?" She tried to joke, but it came out somewhat nervously. "Just worried." She gave me a long look. "You know, sometimes I think how things could have turned out if back then, 10 years ago." "Don't," I interrupted her. "We can't change the past." "And the present?" At that moment, Mike appeared. Monica got out of the car, adjusting her dress that accentuated her figure too revealingly. I watched as she approached him, as she smiled, as she put her hand on his shoulder. Something inside me turned over. An hour later, I was in his apartment. Picking the lock took minutes. Old skills are not forgotten. "I'm taking him to a bar," Monica texted. "You have an hour." The laptop was found quickly. The password was harder to crack, but years in the Guardians taught me a lot. And then I found it. Not only dirt on Mike, but also old photos. Our photos. Monica and I, young, happy, ready to change the world. In one of them, we were especially close, her head on my shoulder, my hands on her waist. "He suspects something." A message from Monica interrupted the memories. "He's coming back." I quickly copied the necessary files and got out of the apartment. Monica was waiting in the car around the corner. "Did it work?" She was excited, her cheeks flushed. "Yes, and I found something else." I showed her the photos. She looked at them for a long time. "We were different," she whispered. "We were—" "And now?" I looked at her. Beautiful, dangerous, desirable. Now, I didn't finish. Because we were already kissing, desperately, greedily, as if these 10 years were only a prelude to this moment. We made it to her house, not stopping the kissing. As soon as we closed the door, we started tearing off each other's clothes. "We shouldn't," she whispered, but her hands were already sliding over my chest. "I know," I replied, unzipping her dress. 10 years of suppressed desire burst out. We kissed like crazy, stumbling in the dark. Her skin smelled of perfume and adrenaline. My hands remembered her body as if we parted yesterday. "I've dreamed of this for so many years." She exhaled as we reached the bedroom. Her body was perfect. The years had only added to her allure. We merged into one, dissolving into each other. Every touch was like an electric shock. Afterwards, we lay in the dark, our bodies intertwined. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, tracing her finger over my chest. "That we are the last bastards." "I know," she snuggled closer, "but I don't regret it." "Me neither, and that's the scariest part." At that moment, the phone rang. Emma. Reality burst into our little universe like a hurricane. "Don't answer," Monica whispered. But I had already pressed the button. "Hi, honey." "Where are you? It's late." "Working on an important case. I'll be home soon." "Is Mom okay? She's not answering her calls." I looked at Monica. "I think so. Probably busy at the gallery." "Okay. Love you." "Love you too." Hanging up, I stared at the ceiling for a long time. "What are we doing, Monica?" "What we should have done 10 years ago." "And what about Emma?" "I don't know." She sat up in bed. "I really don't know, but I can't pretend anymore." "So what do we do?" "First deal with Mike, and then—" "What then?" She turned to me. "And then come what may." We came to meet Mike together. He immediately noticed something new between us. "You two got cozy," he smirked. "Did you bring the money?" "No." I put a flash drive on the table. "But we have something more interesting." He looked through the files. With every minute, his face grew paler. "Where did you get this?" "Doesn't matter." Monica leaned forward. "What matters is that now we can destroy each other." "A draw?" Mike was silent for a long time, drumming his fingers on the table. "Fine," he finally said. A draw. But you know what? You two deserve each other. Just as immoral as before. Look who's talking. I stood up. Are we done? Yes. Get out. Outside the bar, we stood in silence for a long time. What now? Asked Monica. Now we need to decide. Mom? Ethan? We spun around. 10 meters away from us stood Emma. What are you doing here together? I looked at Monica. The same question was in her eyes. What now? Honey, she started. We can explain. Really? Emma came closer. Then explain. Explain why you've both been lying to me for weeks, why you're meeting in secret, why… She fell silent, looking at us, and suddenly she understood everything. I saw it in her eyes. God, she whispered. You… Emma! I stepped towards her. Don't come near me, she recoiled. How long? How long has this been going on? It's complicated, said Monica. Complicated? You're sleeping with each other behind my back and it's complicated? Sweetie, don't call me that. You're no longer my mother, and you… She turned to me. You're no longer my husband. She turned and walked away quickly. We were left standing in the middle of the street. What now? Monica asked again. I looked at her. The woman I loved 10 years ago. The one I maybe never stopped loving. Now, I took her hand. Now we need to decide. Is it worth it? What do you think? The same question was in her eyes as 10 years ago. Back then I backed down. And now? Mike was right. We deserved each other. Two people with a dark past, with shared secrets, with a forbidden passion. You decide, she whispered. We have one more chance, maybe the last one. I looked at her and realized sometimes the past returns not to punish us, but to give us a second chance. It only remained to decide. Was I ready to take it? Did you like this story? Let us know in the comments what you liked. Subscribe to our storytelling podcast. Also, don't forget to like and ring the bell so you don't miss more interesting stories. See you soon.